Tim Burton began making his own movies as a child, featuring himself and a group of friends in a series of short silent films. Did you feel quite early on this is what you'd like to do? Was it as defined as that, or did that happen in your adolescence?
Yeah, it wasn't really defined that way. And I felt actually quite grateful to that, because I didn't feel like I had this pressure, because this is what I want to do, and, you know, I think that can create a lot of pressure in life. So I felt quite lucky that I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed drawing and I enjoyed other things, so I never really had that sort of hardcore formulated plan. It wasn't until later on in school when I did a couple of projects where instead of reading the book, I did a little film, and that sort of, you know, got a very good grade. And I thought, oh, well, this is a great way to kind of maneuver my way through school, and, you know, this might be a great profession for me. But that didn't formulate till later on.
At 18, Burton won a scholarship to the prestigious California Institute of the Arts as part of the scheme set up by Disney Studios.
I did know of Tim Burton at Cal Arts at that time, but he was in a different grade or level than I was. I do remember the film that he did at the end of that year, which was called The Stalk of the Celery Monster. It was such an eye-opening experience for me to see that someone who was given the same tools as everybody else at the school, who were doing these much more prosaic exercises in animation, was actually doing something that was wildly entertaining. So it was very clear at the time that Tim had something special.
Impressed by Stalk of the Celery Monster, Disney offered Tim a job as an animator.
Getting the job, I was like, oh, this is great. And then about a week after that, I think I plunged into a major depression because I was just so bad at it, and I felt quite inadequate. I was really bad at drawing those kind of characters. It wasn't my style. I was very lucky that a certain animator took me under his wing and to kind of protect me from drawing horrible-looking foxes, which that was a real, and I got really depressed.
I mean, serious depression, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, because I was sleeping. I would sleep at my desk 2 hours in the day, in the morning, at my desk, sitting straight up with the boss, and then have a 2-hour break at lunch, then sleep 2 hours in the afternoon, then get a good 10-hour sleep at night. So I think that was kind of like a depression. And I would just do strange things. I would, you know, sit under my desk, or I'd sit inside of a closet, or I got definitely stranger when I worked there.
And as soon as you found your way through, that was...
Yeah, as soon as they kind of let me, they kind of, I think they got kind of afraid of me a bit. And
why was that be?
Well, because they didn't quite know what to do with me. I mean, and luckily they didn't fire me. I mean, that was the good side of it.
There was a fairly large number of disaffected young animators at the time, and I think that one of the things that we did to relieve our boredom with the process of animation at the time was we would make little movies together, and we started to realize that there was something interesting about the way Tim's drawings would kind of come to life in the maquettes and models that I would do from his drawings.
Another project that Tim and I worked on together was an experiment with stop-motion animation, for which I took Tim's designs and created puppets in three-dimensional sets.
It's basically the story of a little boy who thinks that he's Vincent Price. And it was initially a children's book, but Rick and I made it then into a film. And it comes from my childhood experiences, and as I had sort of a identification, I thought, with Vincent Price, and that I really responded to his torment and anguish and insanity.
Vincent Malloy is 7 years old. He's always polite and does what he's told. For a boy his age, he's considerate and nice. But he wants to be just like Vincent Price. He doesn't mind living with his sister, dog, and cats, though he'd rather share a home with spiders and bats. There he could reflect on the horrors he's invented. And wander dark hallways alone and tormented.
And Vincent Price was a big influence. Can you tell us about that? Because he's a powerful influence, and you've described him as a very important influence.
He just had this sort of melodramatic emotion that I could identify with. It was quite cathartic for me, and I always remember. I remember saying once to a German journalist that, you know, watching his movies saved my life, and the journalist said, "Why, were you in some sort of danger?" You know, very literal-minded. So it was like, no, well, yes, maybe, but not necessarily. But he did act as sort of almost a therapist in a certain way. Just watching his films, there was a release for me watching them.
Come closer. Closer. That's right. I'm Vincent Price. You'll be just as safe in this house of fear as any of the other 5 victims murdered by the bat.
When he came into your real world, that must have been fantastic.
Having that impact that he did in my life, and then, you know, him doing Vincent, but especially Edward Scissorhands, because the story for me was so personal that it just made it really special. Because also the Edward character represented that time in my life where, you know, didn't have really any relationships. So that was the way I was feeling, and watching his movies would help me, so that he was in the, I mean, it just had this amazing crossover, and just made it that much more powerful for me.
I know it's a little early for Christmas, Edward, but I have a present for you.
There are powerful moments on the screen where he's having the heart attack, aren't there?
Well, I think so. I mean, you know, especially seeing him, you know, it's just it. But that's again the beauty of having people like that you always, you know, admired, being in something. It just, you just feel. I feel, you know, I feel the emotion so much more, and then hopefully it relates to other people as well. But you know, I know for me it's very powerful.